Sporting Journal Radio, presented by Onyx.
And with St. Croix being here, Savannah, how many times have you been up to Lake of the Woods before?
This is my first time.
What did you think?
It's been a blast so far. Met my expectations and actually went above and beyond. I've seen it so much on social media, people posting about it, seeing their catches, talking about Riverbend Resort in particular, actually. So getting to be up here and meet all these new faces, get out on the ice for the first time and not just get to watch it through a phone is pretty special to me, actually. Growing up in the outdoors, being in northern Minnesota, Canada, Northern Michigan, etc. These are destination places for people to come, and to be up here and be surrounded by these folks and get to give you guys a peek at what St. Croix Rods is all about is pretty special to me, because I get to see your reactions, get to hear your feedback, and see how St. Croix Rods can keep giving anglers the upper hand on the ice. And we got to catch a ton of fish over the past couple of days, and getting to harvest your catch and then have it fried and brought out onto a table for you is pretty special.
Yeah, did you have some of that fish yet?
Yes, it tastes amazing.
It's very good.
You can't beat it. Fresh fish coming right to the table. It's something you can't beat.
Now, Park Falls, Wisconsin, that's not that far from Lake of the Woods, Savannah. I'm just saying. How did it take this long for you to get up here?
Getting to work for St. Croix Rod Company.
St. Croix Rod Company, how long have they been around?
For over 70 years.
Okay.
They have been around, and the family is still heavily involved with the company. They still, make decisions. They're not actually working there anymore, but they still have a say in a lot of what happens. They knew it kind of came to a point where they've taken it as far as they could, and knew that they needed to bring in some new mindsets, new people to keep that innovation in our rods moving forward throughout the industry. So we've been around for quite some time. Ice has always been in our DNA at St. Croix Rods. It wasn't a main focus of ours. Open water was a big thing for us, muskie, walleye, panfish, etc. But we knew it was a market that we could come into and have a place there. So they've worked really hard over the past few years to really dial it up for anglers and being on the ice. So what they've done is they've kind of amped it up, and a lot of our ice rods are driven by our angler feedback. Even our open water rods, we have saltwater rods and fly rods as well. So we take a lot of our feedback and put that into our rods so that we are always giving anglers the upper hand.
Well, I know when I hear the name St. Croix, I immediately think quality, and I'm not just saying that because I'm talking to you right here. It's a true statement. And the other thing I think is great about it is they're making stuff in the United States, right? They're making it right there in Park Falls?
Absolutely, yep. So we make things up in Park Falls, so we call that St. Croix North, but we also have a St. Croix South. And any rod that gets produced down there in St. Croix South gets shipped back up to Park Falls to be inspected. And just because our rods are made down in St. Croix South doesn't make a difference from how we make them up in Park Falls. We have complete control over our manufacturing process, so nothing changes, and they all end up back in Park Falls to be inspected.
Well, we got to try some of the Croix custom ice rods. We got to fish some. I fished with a perch seeker, which was great because we were catching, look at that perch right there. Caught that on that rod. That was a nice fish right there. And I felt it right, like we were catching sauger, which this was a great rod, Joe, for fishing saugers up here in the winter, and walleyes, of course. But that perch hit it and just smashed it and almost pulled that rod right out of my hand. I'm like, well, this is fun. And you could feel it. And even with some of those smaller fish that we were catching, the nice thing about this rod, because this is a panfish rod, right? Crappies, bluegills, perch. Some of those reels, because some of those fish were biting so light, there was so much sensitivity that I could feel that all the way down through the rod. So so Dan wanted to fish with it too, and I didn't give it to him until like the last hour of the second day.
He told me that. He was like, if he'll ever give it up to me.
Yeah, it was a fun rod to use, and yeah, like you said, we caught a pile of fish on it. Tell us about the ice rod lineup that St. Croix has.
Yeah, so we have a whole different range of ice rods. Talking about CCI, that is really our higher end ice rod that we have out there. It's technique specific and is the first ice rod that we rolled. The blank is rolled. So not sure if many of you are familiar with how our manufacturing process works, but all of our rods start out with a mandrel and then they get rolled. And that's
Explain what a mandrel is, if you can.
It's a steel. I mean, Brian, can you explain a little bit? It's a steel.
Well, people can Google it. How about that? Everybody's got the Google machine these days.
Yeah, I'd say,
All
or
right.
you can go online and watch a video about how they're made. We have one out there. Or come up to Park Falls and do a factory tour.
Oh, nice.
You can get up there. We have 2 tours that run during the day. Schedule a time, call the factory store, or call someone in our guide center. They'll get you hooked up with a tour. You get to see the process from start to finish, from the ground up.
And that,
how our rods are made.
Yeah, and that allows you to make them in one piece, though, right? That's essentially what that does?
Yep.
All right. And
there's different pieces. It could be, depending on the rod, they get cut into different pieces.
Gotcha.
The materials, the proprietary materials get cut up, and then they get rolled on with that mandrel, and then they go through the whole entire process. I could talk about it for 2 hours, because the tour takes about 2.5 hours.
All right, listeners, sit back, strap in. It's going to be a while. There's glass involved too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So our Tundra rods that came out this year, some of them are all carbon, and then some of them are glass. So you can differentiate the two depending on the color of the rod. You'll see one is just all straight one color, kind of a gray color with has a blue thread on it, and then one is gray but also has an orange tip at the top as well. And then back to the CCIs, the Croix Custom Ice rods, technique specific, 5-year warranty, same with the Tundras. You get them in your hands, you send in your information on the rod you bought, the guide center works with you, and if for some reason something happens, you're under the warranty program.
Well, I want to thank you again for letting us try those rods out. I don't know what happened to them. They seem to be missing. The ones you let us borrow, I apologize.
Yeah.
They must have fallen down the hole.
They must have fell down the hole. Like I said, your dogs must have chewed them up. Something happened.
All right, where do we find St. Croix online, social media, and all that good stuff?
Yep, stcroixrods.com. You can go online, order right there, direct to angler, purchase through there, purchase through our retailers that we're at. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube as well.
Hear more at sportingjournalradio.com or wherever you get podcasts.
Looking for winter adventure? Might as well pick a place with over 1,000 lakes. Otter Tail County, Minnesota is in the middle of everywhere, offers a simpler pace, and has something for everyone. Find your inner otter at ottertaillakescountry.com.